M. Night Shyamalan's new film, Knock at the Cabin, stars Dave Bautista, Kristen Cui, Jonathan Groff, and Ben Aldridge. Now, for anyone that's been a fan of his for a while, you know that going to an M. Night Shyamalan film can go one of two ways. It can either go like this, or like this. Luckily for me, I grew up with the latter. Signs was one of the first movies that got me into film. That movie absolutely blew my mind the first time I saw it, when I was probably a little bit too young to be watching it. My parents did a great job of exposing me to quality movies at a young age, so thank you for that, Mom and Dad. But 20 years later, I don't think anyone's going into a Shyamalan movie expecting Signs or The Sixth Sense. In fact, you're probably worried about another The Happening. With that said, Knock at the Cabin was a refreshing ride. While vacationing at a remote cabin, a young girl and her parents are taken hostage by four armed strangers who demand that the family make an unthinkable choice to avert the apocalypse. With limited access to the outside world, the family must decide what they believe before all is lost. The premise and marketing for the movie certainly didn't overpromise, to the point that I didn't even know what to expect. But the idea of Knock at the Cabin is one of those thrilling concepts that I wish I could think of myself. The thrills are mostly thanks to excellent pacing and storytelling, and not loud sounds or an anxiety-inducing score. Evidence about the truth of this apocalypse is given to us at a perfect pace, which allows the film to play with our minds and have us questioning what is really true. Taking place in one setting for basically the entire movie, we're presented with variables that make it difficult to distinguish between our human tendency for apophenia and indisputable signs of an apocalypse. For example, there's one character that gets a concussion in the first act, and then he swears later on into the movie that he saw a figure in the light. At first, this provides us indisputable evidence that there is something supernatural going on, but then as other characters point out, and we realize as an audience, he is concussed, and he's very sensitive to light, so it could just be that he's hallucinating. We never find out which is the truth, but that's the point, and the movie provides so many examples like this with perfect timing. What aids the film in delivering this healthy dose of cognitive dissonance is the fact that the four armed strangers are extremely reasonable, rational, kind-seeming people with lives who don't want to be in the cabin just as much as the family doesn't want them to be there either. Which was so refreshing, because in almost every movie or story ever told, there has to be some type of antagonist, and usually in some way they're very irrational or evil. In this film, there's nobody to hate, nobody to be upset with, and no one for our protagonists to fight against. It was a super clever way to make it hard for us as an audience to decide who's right and who's wrong. And I don't know if any of that would have been possible without Dave Bautista as Leonard. He's an obvious standout here, elevating Knock at the Cabin to another level. From the first scene, which is probably my favorite scene, he delivers such a balanced performance that it's almost off-putting as a viewer. He clearly has an agenda, and he's traveling with a group of people holding weapons, but he seems conflicted, kind, and honest. It takes some serious acting ability to have all those close-up shots on you throughout the movie and be able to convincingly portray all those emotions at once. He also didn't use his obvious physicality almost at all. And I know most of us know him as Goofy Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy, but he's turning out to be a serious dramatic actor, and I hope to see him in more serious films from here on out. The film also relies a lot on symbolism, which added a lot to the movie for me. It's done either through visuals or dialogue, starting with the first scene. We see Kristen Cui as Wen, who did a great job by the way, jarring grasshoppers. As Dave Bautista's character Leonard approaches and asks her about what she's doing, there's a few lines spoken that are not only symbolic, but also some foreshadowing for what's going to happen later in the movie. And there were quite a few times that I thought back to that scene while watching things unfold during the movie, thinking, yeah, they kind of told us this would happen. I don't know, it's the small things in his movies that I really enjoy. All of this to say that Knock at the Cabin has a lot going for it, but I don't think it was able to hold itself together. The storytelling at times comes off as very messy, but if you go into the film with your brain at half capacity, ready to enjoy the ride, then you might have a great time with it. But for most people, if you apply a little bit of critical thought to the film, it doesn't exactly hold up to scrutiny. It's not like it's a false marketing issue like with The Village, and it's not just straight up hard to stomach like with The Happening. It's that at the end of the day, the twist just fell flat for me. And there is no big twist like with The Sixth Sense. Instead, the twist here just kind of presents itself with how the story unfolds in a more natural way. But the problem is, I think most people will have already made up their minds by this point, leading most people to probably have a hard time figuring out what the twist even was. And unfortunately, because of this misstep, the ending fell very flat for me. A huge piece of the film that I think was underdeveloped that could have definitely helped the ending was in Eric and Andrew's relationship. Now, Jonathan Groff and Ben Aldridge both delivered excellent performances, and it's always impressive when actors can perform so dramatically while being isolated in one setting and with almost nothing to work with. But most of their backstory and a huge piece of the storyline is told to us in a series of flashbacks that were messy to say the least. The flashbacks broke the pacing of the more interesting stuff going on while glossing over the serious building blocks of that relationship. And it becomes apparent in the third act that their relationship was supposed to mean a little bit more to us than the movie gave us time for. Not to mention that one huge plot point and character trait of Ben Aldridge's character Andrew was given to us in a 30-second montage that absolutely did not do his character any justice, which again turned out to be more important than it initially seemed. Even with the issues this movie has though, the ending could have done much more with what it had to work with. In Signs, everything comes together beautifully and Mel Gibson regains his faith. In The Sixth Sense, the big twist ending is so good that's all people remember from that movie. The point is, we've come to expect something profound and epic from Shyamalan endings, but nothing really came to fruition. There's so many satisfying things that I thought the ending was almost about to do, but instead it just ends. In general, I love the simplicity of Shyamalan movies. All of them have a simple concept that messes with your mind in a big way, and all of his movies have a trademark style, and this movie is beautifully shot, by the way. But when that ending hit, it was almost too simple for me. And if you're a big fan of M. Night Shyamalan like I am, I'm really curious to hear what you think. I think people are going to be very divided on this movie. Personally, despite its flaws, I really enjoyed the ride. And even though I enjoyed Split and Glass and his TV show Servant, I feel like none of them had that simplicity and that feel of some of his earlier movies, and I almost feel like Knock at the Cabin brings that back a little bit, and I really enjoyed that. Thank you guys as always for watching. I'm thinking of getting a rating system in place for movies that I review. If you guys have any ideas, let me know. I want it to be something original, but not too crazy, something simple. If you think of anything, let me know in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe, and thank you as always for the growth on this channel. I can't thank you enough. Anyways, thanks for watching. See ya.